The rain hit the tin roof of the mountain gulch like 1,000 angry fists. The storm came in quickly. 1 minute the sky was a dull grey bowl, and the next it was split by lightning so bright that it made the wet pines look like white skeletons. Even Cole put the last bolt on the rusty pickup and wiped his hands on a rag that used to be blue. He was 30, maybe, but he looked older. Years of grease, late nights, and too much black coffee had left permanent shadows under his eyes. He liked this life because it was quiet and predictable, which was very different from the chaos of the city he had left behind. The wind howled through the broken window in the office door, bringing with it the smell of wet pine and something sharper, like hot, wild metal. He frowned. The smell wasn't of gasoline or burnt oil. It was odd. Then came a low, far-off boom. Not thunder, something heavier, like a crash on the old mountain road. He grabbed his leather jacket and flashlight, and his heart raced against his ribs. He put his old Ford into gear and drove onto the slick, winding road that cut through the woods like a scar. The storm's roar drowned out everything else. The smell got stronger the higher he climbed. It was a sharp smell with a sweet ozone taste. Lightning flashed, and I saw something ahead. A broken guardrail and a hole in the asphalt. Ethan parked and took out his flashlight. As he looked over the edge, the rain soaked him to the bone. A faint glow pulsed below, deep crimson and gold, like the heart of a furnace that was about to die. He didn't use his head. He just went up. There was a lot of mud and slippery roots on the slope. He slipped, caught himself, and slid the last few feet into the ravine. There was a shape lying against the rocks that gave off the light. It looked like a broken glider or maybe a plane that was being tested. After that, the thing moved. A real wing shivered in the rain. It was huge, with scales that looked like molten copper and edges that were ripped and bleeding a bright amber. His breath got stuck, a dragon. It shouldn't have been possible, but there it was, breathing in short, shaky pulls. There was a woman lying next to it, half buried in leaves and rainwater. She was tall, and her skin was pale with a hint of gold, as if light lived under it. Her face was covered in silver hair that was streaked with blood. A deep cut ran along her side, and every breath sounded like a broken bellows. Ethan knelt down, and the logical part of his brain screamed, while a deeper, older instinct took over. He put 2 fingers on her neck. Pulses weak, almost there. Her eyes blinked open. They weren't eyes of people. Golden irises and narrow pupils. She whispered, "Please," her voice a soft rasp. "Don't let me." Fade. There was a crack of lightning above. He didn't have a first aid kit or any training for this. But he couldn't just let her die. He took off his jacket and pressed it against the wound. The fabric was warm, more than human warmth, almost hot. She winced and then grabbed his hand. When their skin touched, a sharp, bright shock ran up his arm. Her golden eyes got bigger. The air sparkled. For a moment, the rain stopped falling, and each drop hung in the air like a glass bead. And then she let out a sound that was half a sigh and half a roar. The scales on the fallen dragon's wing suddenly lit up. Under his hand, her wound pulsed and started to heal. The storm above them suddenly stopped. Through the mist, tall figures in dark, ornate armor appeared. Their faces were hidden behind black helmets. Their boots made no noise on the wet ground as they moved like predators. In the middle of them was a man with hair that looked like polished bronze and eyes that looked like the woman's molten gold. "Mother," he yelled, and his voice cut through the air like a knife. He fell to her side, his face showing both anger and desperate relief. The others made a circle round them to protect them, and their real wings spread out in the rain. Ethan stumbled back, but the woman held his wrist with surprising strength. Her son, or was he a prince, froze and stared at the mechanic. "What have you done?" he asked, his voice sharp and strange. Ethan opened his mouth, but nothing came out. The woman, whose breathing was now steadier and whose cheeks were getting color back, spoke first. "He touched me." The armored figures gasped, as if they were all taking a deep breath at once. Her son's eyes got smaller. Not possible. But the wound that had been bleeding a few minutes ago was now just a faint silver scar. The woman looked at Ethan with bright eyes. "This man made me better." The storm started up again, but this time it was softer, almost respectful. Every golden eye in that secret royal circle was on Ethan, and his heart raced. A mechanic from nowhere, a stranger who had only wanted to help, and somehow, impossibly, had done the unthinkable. The dragon lady smiled a little, a mix of thanks and something else he couldn't name. She said softly, "You are not who you think you are." The storm's rhythm slowed to a steady drizzle, and it felt like the whole mountain was holding its breath. Ethan stood still in the circle of strange people with wings, his boots sinking into the mud. Every pair of burning eyes stayed on him like he was a rare bug pinned down for study. The woman he had just saved, if saved was even the right word, sat up straighter. Her silver hair stuck to her wet cheeks, but the wound he had pressed his jacket against was now a faint silver shimmer, as if moonlight had sewn it shut. Ethan finally spoke up. I don't know what went wrong. I swear I just tried to stop the bleeding." The tall man with bronze hair, who was clearly in charge, took a step forward on purpose. There was a faint smell of smoke and iron in the air around him. He said, "A mortal cannot heal the Queen of the Emberflight," each word dripping with power and doubt. "But you did, Queen." Ethan blinked. He looked at the woman, and she looked back at him with a calm intensity that made his stomach tighten. The man continued, "Mother," and bowed his head a little toward her. "Are you sure you're not hurt?" The Queen said, "I'm alive because of him." Her voice was soft but strong, like she was speaking from the heart of a mountain. "And because something old still flows through men's blood." She looked at Ethan. Inside him, Ethan moved round uncomfortably. "Hey, I'm just a mechanic. I change tires, fix cars, and put in new alternators. I don't have any old blood. My credit score isn't very good." Some of the armored people looked at each other in confusion when he said this, showing that they didn't understand what credit was. The Queen's golden eyes narrowed a little, but not in anger. It was more like interest. The leader with the bronze hair opened one huge wing, and the edges were dripping with rain. "I am Kale, the Emberflight Prince. If you hurt my mother in any way—" "Kale," the Queen said, cutting him off. She didn't take her eyes off Ethan. "He hasn't hurt me. He has brought something back to life." Kale's jaw moved, showing that he didn't trust her. "Then we have to bring him with us. The council will want answers if the healers can't explain this." "Take me," Ethan's voice broke. "Oh, wait a minute. I don't even know what any of this means. Dragons? What about queens? That's all I wanted to do. Help someone who looked hurt." Kel's wings flicked once, sending droplets flying like sparks. "But you were able to do what our magic could not. You can't ignore that." Two of the armored guards moved closer. Their scales, were they scales or armor, shone black under the weak moonlight. Ethan raised his hands without thinking. "Hey, take it easy. I won't leave until someone tells me what's going on." The Queen spoke again, and her voice was soft but firm. "He comes with us, and I will protect him. He will not be harmed." Kel let out a sound that was halfway between a growl and a sigh. "Whatever you want, Mother." One of the guards opened up a huge black wing and pointed to a path that was hidden by the pines. Ethan saw a light in the distance that looked like fire trapped in glass. It seemed impossible for the Queen to stand up after her injuries, but she did so with grace. She was taller than he thought, and her posture was regal. She kept her eyes on him. "Come, Ethan Cole," she said, saying his name like she had known it all along. "Your path has already changed. How do you? He stopped himself. It's best not to ask. As the procession moved through the wet forest, the wings folded and unfolded with a sound like silk in a strong wind. The rain turned into a mist, and the night was thick with the smell of pine and burnt air. Ethan followed, his mind racing. Dragons, a queen, and him, a grease monkey from the backwoods, walking right in the middle of them. He looked over at Kale, who was watching him closely. So, you guys are really dragons. Cal's golden eyes darted to him. We're Drakari. You might call us dragons with your tongue. We like firstborn of fire. Okay, firstborn of fire. Of course. Ethan tried to laugh, but it didn't sound right. And where do you live? Exactly. A secret volcano hideout. Kel didn't say anything, but the tiniest hint of a smile pulled at the corner of his mouth. They came out of the trees onto a narrow ledge. There was a valley below that was full of light. Streams of molten gold flowed through black stone, making rivers that pulsed like veins. In the middle of the valley was a fortress made of black towers and red crystals that glowed from within, as if it held the heart of the earth itself. Ethan stopped in his tracks. That is not on any map I've seen. The queen walked to the edge, her wings spread out. The light from the valley made her look like she was made of gold and red. Few people see the reach and live to tell about it. Even fewer people are invited. Ethan swallowed hard. Good for me. Kale folded his wings and stood next to his mother. We fly, he said. Ethan looked round. Fly. Like, what? A helicopter. Kale raised one elegant eyebrow and spread his huge wings out to their full length. The others did the same thing. Ethan said, that kind of fly. Kale grabbed him by the arm and lifted him onto his back with surprising ease before he could say anything. The prince's muscles felt like steel coils under the wet leather of his armor. Kale said, hold on tight. I wait. Kale jumped. The wind and rain made the ground fall away quickly. Evan's stomach dropped to the ground. He held onto the prince's shoulders as the whole group rose into the clouds, their wings cutting through the fog. The cold air roared in his ears, but the thrill of it all made him forget his fear. The glowing rivers of Ember Reach twisted like molten snakes far below, lighting up the night. Ethan yelled, half in fear and half in awe, even though he didn't want to. Kale just laughed, and it sounded like thunder. They landed on a wide balcony made of black stone with ruby light running through it. When Ethan stumbled onto solid ground, huge doors of carved obsidian swung open on their own, revealing a grand hall full of warmth and color. The inside was amazing, with vaulted ceilings covered in fiery runes and walls made of shimmering crystal that seemed to be alive. In the middle, there was a big hearth with blue flames that didn't make any smoke. Ethan spun around slowly, his mouth dry. Okay, not Kansas anymore, that's for sure. Hundreds of Drakari bowed low as the queen walked into the hall. Their wings folded perfectly. Kale pointed sharply to attendants. Call the high healer and the council. The queen walked up to Ethan again while the hall was buzzing with quiet urgency. When you got close to her, she was even more magnetic, like the heat from a bonfire on a cold night. You know how you feel, don't you? She asked in a soft voice. Feel what? The fire? She said. It burns in your blood. You wouldn't have made it down or healed me without it. Ethan shook his head. I don't feel anything. Except maybe a panic attack coming on. The queen smiled a little. Denial is normal, but the truth won't wait long. Kale came back with a tall, thin person whose robe sparkled like starlight over deep coals. The high healer's eyes were a softer gold than the others. The healer asked, is this the mortal? While staring at Ethan in a way that made him feel uneasy. Yes, the queen said. He touched me. And the wound closed. The healer reached out with his hand, which was inches from Ethan's chest. Ethan screamed when a sudden heat burst under his skin. The healer's eyes got bigger. Not possible. He has the Ember Mark with him. There were whispers all over the hall. Kel became stiff. The Ember Mark hasn't been seen on a mortal in 1,000 years. The Queen's eyes got sharper. And yet it lives again. Ethan raised both of his hands. Wait a minute. Ember Mark. Is that like a tattoo? Because I can promise you I don't. But when he looked down, the faint red symbol that looked like a dragon flying had started to glow on his right forearm. He fell back. What the this wasn't here before? Kel's jaw got tight. The council won't be happy if this is true. The Ember Mark ties him to our fate. Ethan's heart raced in his ears. Binds me? No, no, no. I'm not a part of anyone's destiny. I work on carburetors. I drink coffee that isn't good. That's all. The Queen moved closer, her eyes warm but firm. Whether you like it or not, the fire picked you, and with it comes a choice that could either save or destroy our world. The huge doors opened with a bang, and a dozen elders with wings of silver flame came out. Everyone looked at Ethan, and the hall went completely quiet. Her voice rang out like a bell struck from the heart of a volcano as she turned to them. The Ember Mark is back, and it burns in this mortal. Gasps echoed in the room. Kel's hand fell on the hilt of his sword. Ethan's heart raced as he realized that his quiet life in the mountain gouge was over for good. The obsidian hall was quiet, with only the crackling of the blue hearth to be heard. Ethan stood in the middle, and every elder's burning gaze was fixed on him as if he were a dangerous curiosity. Their wings silver, bronze, and coal dark spread out a little, like a hawk getting ready to attack. He wanted to back away, but the Queen put a soft hand on his arm. Her touch sent heat through her body, steady and grounding. Breathe, Ethan, she whispered, her golden eyes never leaving his. One of the elders, an old woman with hair that looked like smoke, stepped forward from the other side of the room. Her voice was deep like a furnace and sharp like a knife. So the Ember Mark comes back, and it's in a mortal. Not possible. Kel stood next to his mother with his back straight. High Elder Saraveth, we saw it. We saw him heal the Queen. Another older person, this one with eyes that looked like melted copper, sneered. Maybe a trick. People are smart about machines and fake lights. Ethan put both hands up. Hey, I'm not smart enough to make fake glowing tattoos. Trust me. And I didn't exactly sign up for whatever this is. The Queen's voice sounded like a low roar. The fire picked him. That alone deserves our respect. Saraveth's eyes got sharper. Yes, respect. But what about trust? No. When the Ember Mark burns again, prophecy comes to life. You know what that means. Serafini. Serafini, the Queen, held her head high. I know. And I will not let fear control what we do. The elders whispered to each other, and it sounded like thunder far away. Even got Kel's attention. Can someone tell me more about this prophecy? Or should I just stay here like a confused scarecrow? Kel breathed out through his nose, and a thin cloud of smoke rose into the cold air. People say that the Ember Mark only shows up when the balance between fire and shadow is in danger. A mortal carry it. He paused, as if the words themselves were dangerous. Is meant to be either our greatest ally or our end. Ethan blinked. Then there's no pressure. Saraveth raised a twisted hand. The trial will show the truth if the fire has left a mark on him. He has to go through it, whether he lives or dies. The trial of flame. Kel's voice was like a low growl. He hasn't had any training. He will die. Saraveth said simply. Then the fire will speak, and we will know. Serafine's golden eyes got smaller. The trial is for Drokari, not for people who just happened to be here. Saraveth said, it is for the chosen, and the fire has chosen. The elders all agreed with a rumble. Evan's stomach twisted. Trial. Like a thing for a court. Or are we talking about an arena for gladiators? Kel replied with a grim tone. Both. In a way. Ethan was walking through a twisting hallway of black crystal a few minutes later. Kel walked next to him. not saying anything except for the sound of his wings rustling. The hallway led to a huge room that was lit by rivers of molten rock that flowed through channels in the obsidian floor. The walls were hot and the waves of heat rolled off them. In the middle was a round platform made of black stone with runes on it that pulsed a faint red color. There were 12 Drakari guards standing in a circle, and their faces were blank. Ethan wiped the sweat off his forehead. So, what happens in this trial? Please tell me it's a test on paper. I can handle multiple choice. Kale did not smile. You will step into the circle. The fire will judge you. It will let you through if it finds truth in your heart. If not, he didn't say anything else. Ethan took a sip. Great. A little spontaneous combustion is just what I need to make my Tuesday more interesting. Serafini came closer, and her presence was like a calm flame in the heat. The fire is not just destruction, she said. It is also making things. Don't fight it. Let it see you. That's comforting. Sort of, Ethan said quietly. Kel's hand touched his shoulder for a second. The gesture surprisingly calmed me down. Stay centered. Take a deep breath. And if something goes wrong, yeah, you'll get me out. Kel's eyes got darker. No, if something goes wrong, nothing can get you out. Great. That's great. Ethan got on the platform. The runes glowed bright red, and there was a low hum in the air. The heat licked at his boots. The gods started to chant softly, and their voices moved through the room like smoke. A sudden column of fire surrounded him, trapping him in a circle of flames. He yelled and fell back, but the flames didn't hurt. They felt like hot wind and static electricity. There was a voice in his head and outside of it that whispered, Ethan Cole, do you have shadow or light? I don't know. He yelled, please show us. He saw pictures in his head. The quiet gouge, his father's sad face when Ethan dropped out of college, and the years he spent going from one job to another. Sadness, loneliness, and the feeling of never being enough. Is this what you believe? The fire asked. Yes, he said in a low voice. But I do my best. I do what I can to help. I don't want anyone to get hurt if I can help it. The flames got brighter and wrapped round him like a living cloak. Kindness, power, disorder. A deeper shadow crept in, and it sounded like broken stone. He is not strong. He will get burned. Ethan made fists. I'm not weak. I just keep on going, even when everything goes wrong. That means something. The fire roared. His body was on fire, with every nerve ending. He thought he might break down. Then, all of a sudden, it went away. When he opened his eyes, the flames had turned into a huge snake of pure light with two suns for eyes. It dropped its huge head so that he could feel the heat of its breath. It said, you are chosen not by birth but by heart. You have the ember mark. Protect it, or the shadow flight will take everything. The snake turned into sparks that fell softly on the platform. The circle of fire was gone. Ethan staggered but stayed standing. There was no noise in the room. The elders looked on with big eyes. Kale was the first to step forward. His face showed a mix of relief and awe. Saraveth tilted her head. The flame accepts him. The prophecy is still true. Seraphim's face relaxed, and her golden eyes showed both pride and worry. You are now tied to us, Ethan Cole. The shadow flight will know you're alive. They will come after you. Ethan's throat got dry. Shadow flight. Sounds nice. Kel's jaw got tight. They are Drakari who gave into the dark side and wanted power. They have been waiting for hundreds of years to attack. Saraveth's voice sounded like breaking rock. The Ember Mark comes back to change things. One way or another, if he falls, Ember Reach will fall too. Ethan sat on a stone bench in a quieter room with glowing crystals all round him. His skin still felt warm. Serafini walked in quietly, and her steps were light even though her crown was heavy. You did a good job, she said. I didn't do anything but not catch fire. That is more than most people could handle, she said with a small smile, even rubbed the glowing symbol on his arm. I don't even know what to call this thing. A brand. A curse, thanks, she said, and a duty. He looked up, his voice full of anger. Why me? There have to be 1,000 Drokari or stronger, faster and smarter. She said, the fire does not choose the strongest. It picks the one who will keep going, even when hope is gone. Her words fell over him like a calm dawn. Kale walked in, and it was hard to tell what he was thinking. The council meets at dawn. They will get ready for war. You have to be ready. War. Ethan said again, the word heavy. Kale looked him in the eye. The shadow flight will come. They always do when the Ember Mark comes back. But you won't have to face them alone. Evan's nerves calmed down when he heard something in Kel's voice. Maybe a hint of respect. I don't know how to fight in a war. Kale said simply, we will teach you. Serafini put a warm hand on Ethan's shoulder. Take a break now. Your training starts tomorrow. If you fail, the world will burn. Ethan nodded, but his heart raced like a hammer on steel. He didn't ask if he had a choice. He already knew the answer deep down. The valley of Imburich looked like a river of stars below him as he lay in a guest room made of glowing crystal. The sigil on his arm pulsed softly in time with his heart. Ethan felt something strange for the first time in years. Goal. But there were dark clouds gathering behind the distant peaks. These clouds were full of black flame. The shadow flight was on its way. He was just a simple mechanic from the mountains, but he was the one who would decide whether the world was full of life or fell into eternal night. Ethan had never seen anything like morning in Imburich. The sun didn't rise. It exploded. The molten light spilled over the black peaks, making the sky look like it was painted in gold and red. Lava flowed like veins through the ground below. The air tasted different, sharp and electric, like the world was getting ready for a fight. Ethan stood on a balcony made of black crystal, looking out over a valley that seemed to go on forever. The sigil on his forearm pulsed softly, making it feel warm but not painful. He took a moment to let the beauty from another world sink in. Then Kel's voice broke the silence. You're late. Ethan turned round. The prince stood against the doorframe, his wings folded but still imposing. Every line of him gave off a controlled fire. He wore a dark steel breastplate with glowing runes carved into it. I was enjoying the view, Ethan said, rubbing his eyes. Not every day do you wake up in a volcano palace. Kel's golden eyes didn't get any softer. War doesn't wait for a thanks. Now is the time to start training. They went down to the lower levels, where the air got hotter and the smell of iron got stronger. The training hall was a dark cave with rivers of lava lighting it up. There were racks of weapons on the walls, like shiny spears, curved blades, and strange staffs with two ends. Kale gave Ethan a plain wooden stick. Start here. Ethan turned it over in an awkward way. Not really my thing. I like socket wrenches better. Kale said, you are marked by the ember. And then he circled him like hawk. But power alone is useless without discipline. Show me how you stand. Ethan stood with his feet shoulder width apart and held the staff with both hands. Kel's lip moved. You look like a goat that has been scared. Bend your knees. Balance. Ethan did what Kale said and tried to copy his fluid stance. Kale lunged out of nowhere. Ethan's hands shook as Kel's blade flashed a controlled swipe that stopped an inch from his neck. Kale said calmly, "Too slow. Again." They did the same thing over and over. Kel's attacks were quick and accurate. Ethan's arms hurt. His palms were blistered. And even though he was slowly getting used to the heat, he was still sweating a lot. Kale said, "You're holding back after the 10th round." "Why?" "Because," Ethan said, breathing hard, "I don't usually fight dragon royalty before breakfast." Kill thy shown. Then learn, or else you'll die when the shadow flight comes. Something about that tone of grim certainty made Ethan's heart stubborn. He held onto the staff tighter, waited for a Kale to strike again, and finally was able to block it. The noise of wood hitting steel echoed through the cave. Kale nodded once, showing that he agreed. Better. Hours went by in a blur of activity and heat. Evan's muscles hurt, but he felt a strange energy flowing through him, like warmth from the Emmermark. Kale finally talked about the enemy during a break in the drills. He swung his sword in a graceful arc and said, "The shadow flight used to be part of us, but they traded light for darkness. They think the flame should be in charge, not protect. They set worlds on fire until all that is left is ash." Ethan wiped the sweat off his forehead. "And they're coming here because of me. They come for power," Kale said. "But the Embermark's return will bring them back faster. They'll either want to catch you or kill you." Ethan said, "Great. I've always wanted to be a glowing target." Serafini joined them later, and even though the room was hot, her presence made it cooler. Her silver hair was braided and crowned with a faint halo of flame. Her armor shone like liquid gold. She told Kale, "You push him hard." Kale didn't hesitate to say, "He must be ready." Serafini looked at Ethan with kind but serious eyes. "My son only believes in the power of the sword. But keep in mind that the Embermark is not just for fighting. It is a link, making something. You have to learn both." She waved her hand, and a small swirl of flame appeared in her palm and danced like a living thing. "Pay attention," she told Ethan. "Feel the fire inside of you, let it answer." Ethan looked at his hand, his heart racing. He tried to remember the trial's flame and how it had wrapped round him like a living cloak. A faint warmth started in his palm. There was a small, real flicker of red light. Serafine's eyes got softer. "Good. The fire is aware of you." Kill raised an eyebrow. "Not bad. For a human." The big hall was full of light and music that night because of a feast. Long tables were full of food that sparkled like gems, roasted meat with a molten glaze, fruits that glowed faintly, and cups of amber liquid that sparkled and tasted like honey and smoke. The Drakari musicians played instruments that looked like they were made from starlight. Their songs were deep and haunting. Ethan sat between Serafini and Kale and tried not to look at the winged dancers whose movements left trails of fire in the air. He almost forgot about the danger that was coming for a moment. Not quite. But then the hall went quiet all of a sudden. A young guard ran through the doors with wide eyes, looking scared. He bowed low to Serafini and said, "Your Majesty, scouts say there is black fire on the eastern ridge. The shadow flight is close." The music stopped. Every Drakari warrior got tense. Kale stood up right away, his wings flaring. "How many?" The god said. "Too many to count. They move quickly." Seraphine's voice stayed calm but strong. "Get the defenses ready. Get the people out of the outer villages." Kale looked at Ethan. "Stay in the citadel. Don't go." Ethan's heart rate went up. "Wait. You want me to just stay out of the way while you all fight?" Kale said. "You are not ready." Ethan said, "Maybe not. But the fire picked me for a reason. I can help." Kale hesitated, and his golden eyes showed that he was angry. "How can I help? You don't even know how to hold a staff." Ethan said, "I'll figure it out. I always do." Serafini looked at him, and the smallest smile crossed her lips. "The ember mark burns brightest when the heart won't give in," she said softly. "But Kale is right. You need to learn from now. We can't lose you before the real fight starts." Ethan nodded, but he clenched his fists. "Okay, but I won't be sitting this out for long." Later, Ethan walked back and forth in his room. Outside, the faraway sky flickered with strange light black flames against the red dawn. He looked at the glowing symbol on his arm. It throbbed faster, as if it knew a threat was coming. Images flashed through his mind again. The fire serpent from the trial, its voice echoing, "Guard it, or all will fall to the shadow fight." He didn't really know how to protect anything, but he did know one thing. He wouldn't let anyone fight by themselves. Kale came in without knocking round midnight, and his armor was black with soot. Scouts say the shadow flight will attack in a few days, maybe hours. Ethan stopped walking down. "Then let me fight." Kale's jaw got tight. "You would die," Ethan shot back, "if I don't do anything." "I'll die. I can't just hide and let people burn if they're coming for me." Kale looked at him for a long time before letting out a sharp breath. "You are careless," Ethan said. "Yes, but I'm also right." Kale's face broke into a reluctant smile. "Maybe. Come, you should see something." Kale took him to a huge balcony that looked out over the dark horizon. The lava rivers below pulsed like a heart. But beyond the valley, black flames lit the sky. They were cold and natural and scary. Kale said softly, "That is the shadow flight's vanguard. Before the full attack, they will test our defenses." As if responding to the darkness, Ethan felt the ember mark burn hotter. "Then we stop them." Kale looked at him. "With practice, with control, and maybe even with the fire itself." He held out his hand with the palm up, and a small flame grew there like a living jewel. "You have to learn how to call it. Not just sparks, real fire." Ethan gulped hard and then raised his own hand. The sigil glowed a bright red. He felt a surge of heat through his body, strong, but not painful. A flame sprang up in his hand, bigger and steadier than before. Kale's eyes got a little bigger. "Better. The fire responds to you right away." Ethan looked at the flame with a mix of fear and all that made his chest tight. "What if I can't handle it? Then it will control you," Kale said plainly. "But I think you will learn." They trained all night, and the balcony was lit up by two fires, one from old blood and the other from an unexpected fate. Ethan felt the ember mark's power for the first time, not as a burden, but as a promise. The black flames of the shadow flight crept closer and closer below, and up in the sky. The stars seemed to lean in, as if the heavens themselves were watching one mortal mechanic who might soon decide the fate of dragons and the world. Night fell hard on Ember Reach. The shadow flight had come. Beyond the black peaks, the horizon was on fire with black flame. The warning horns screamed like hurt animals. The Drakari warriors climbed the walls, and their wings glowed red in the torchlight. The lava rivers got hotter, as if the mountain knew a war was coming. Ethan stood on the highest balcony of the citadel, staff in one hand and the ember mark on his arm glowing white hot. This was not a practice, not a sparring match. This was it. A rush of fire-edged wind brought Kale to his side. He yelled over the noise. "They break through the eastern ridge. Stay with me." Ethan swallowed hard. "Not this time." Kale's face lit up with a fierce grin. "Don't hide." The first wave of shadow flight warriors burst out of the darkness below. They were scaled figures wrapped in black fire. Their wings cut through the night like knives of smoke. Srafini stood above them, a queen of living fire. "Ember Reach," she yelled, and her voice echoed through the valley. The Drakari army answered with a loud roar that lit up the sky. Kale jumped off the balcony, and Ethan followed. The ember mark pulsed through his veins, making him feel weightless. He was surrounded by heat that didn't burn him, but made him float. Suddenly, he was flying, and the staff was blazing like a comet in his hand. The enemy came in waves, with black fire hissing against red light. Kel's sword turned into a streak of molten silver that cut through the dark. Every time Ethan swung his staff, the ember mark lit up. There was pure flame where his weapon hit, light against darkness, which pushed the shadow flight back. But the leader of the enemy came out, a huge Drakari covered in shadow, with eyes that looked like endless night. "The Lord of the Shadow, give us the marked one," the Shadow Lord yelled. his voice shaking stone and bone. "Or everything will burn." Ethan floated in the air, his heart racing. "Looks like I'm the prize," Cale growled. "Not on my life." The Shadow Lord raised a clawed hand and threw a wave of black fire. Cale quickly moved to the side, but the blast went straight for Ethan. Fear gave way to instinct. The ember mark burned brightly, sending white light flying from his skin. The black flame broke apart like glass, sending harmless sparks flying. People gasped on the battlefield. The Shadow Lord pulled back and narrowed his eyes. Not possible. Ethan felt the fire rise higher, as if it were alive and begging to be let go. He looked Cale in the eye. Cale nodded once. "Let it talk." Ethan pushed the staff up into the air. The ember mark turned into a sun. A pillar of pure flame roared down from the sky, crashing through him and into the ground. The shockwave spread across Simba Reach like a tidal wave of light that swallowed up all the darkness. As the black fire broke apart, the Shadow Flight screamed, and their bodies turned to smoke. The Shadow Lord screamed and then disappeared in a cloud of ash and silence. The valley was quiet. The only sound left was the hiss of the lava cooling. Serafini came down, and her wings folded as she landed next to Ethan. Her golden eyes shone with pride and maybe even awe. She said softly, "The prophecy has come true. The ember mark burns to protect, not to destroy." Cale put his hand on Ethan's shoulder, and for a moment he smiled. "You fought like one of us." Ethan forced a shaky smile. "Not bad for a guy who works on carburetors." The surviving warriors heard laughter, pure and bright, all round them. As the sun rose, Serafini spoke to the Drakari who had gathered. "Tonight the fire made a good choice. Imber Reach stands because a mortal carried the heart of fire." The army cheered, and their wings flashed like 1,000 rising suns. Ethan looked at the sigil on his arm. It still glowed, but not as brightly now. Like an ember waiting for its next call. Things would never be the same at home. He might never come back. But as he stood among the dragons, the mountain lit up with new light. He felt it again. Purpose. And for the first time, he really knew who he was.